You know, having lived a while and had some compassion for people, and you liked people, you grew up at a time when things were really rougher perhaps than you might have known, but it was rough enough for you to know that it was rough. I think about a moment like that in America, if I don't have to go outside of these other places I could stay home. I think about how miserable slavery must have been. I think about how guys who owned slaves, how they must have cared less about everything. I think about that. I think about what I have now learned that they did to the slaves. Man, it's something else. And they say, they say that nothing was wrong with it. They say they got it out of the good book. Now, things have changed. That's an old thought. And that's still exists today. But there is a younger generation who does not necessarily think that way. They still, being white, have the same privileges as any white person, or even the white people who started slavery in this country. But they don't actually feel, perhaps, so hateful and racist. Be that as it may, that stuff still exists. And then I think about coming from over on the slave side, how we were taught based upon the things that white people did. You know, we hear about the lynchings. We'd hear about the beat downs, the jails. We'd hear about that. And then when people start standing up, we would see what they would do, beat with bats and sticks and guns and dogs. I mean, it was just, when you see wild kingdom and those animals out there killing each other, that's the way humanity was in the United States of America when it came to black people and white people. Black people weren't like that. Black people were like the animal that's always watching, trying to escape, because there are some vicious animals out there. I guess in order to live, all of them got to have some kind of viciousness about them. But the big ones, the lions, the big animals that doesn't like apples, like meat. Boy. And then there is a gazelle. There is a impala. And here comes an alligator or a leopard. And boy, so this is the kind of stuff that was going on. But black people were hearing, learning, getting some information that they hadn't had. And they began to make some changes, stand up for changes. Few were made. They even tried to pass some laws. Laws passed way back then that have been erased from the books now. You see, we were taught that the way white people acted was evil. We were taught that white people, in the most part, act like devils. Now, not many, I don't guess, black people actually call white people devils. But there was a man, I think his name was Elijah Muhammad, who used to teach that white people were devils. Anything that acted like a devil, strutted like a devil, is a devil. Black people who were raised in this country, who had been robbed at the education level, they weren't going to call no white people no devils. They might think it slowly and quietly, But no, they were too possessed. They were too controlled to do anything like that. They're just like the black people who voted for Donald Trump. You talk to them, they will give you a zillion reasons, and they can stand up and debate them just as good as anybody why they voted for Donald Trump. But they voted for Donald Trump. The reason is they couldn't help it. They couldn't help it. That's who they are. They could not help it. And I'm not apologizing. They're not apologizing. That's just the way it is. Now, those are the kind of things that we've been living with all our lives. And then you look back and say, well, what about this God in the middle of all of this? This God, the creator, and every different group of people got different groups, and they all got God shaped up in their fashion. And those fashions are different. Just as your hair might be curly and yours straight, your God is going to be different, just as this God is going to be different when you get down to it, unless you've submitted to another's God. And that would be where a slave submits to his master's God. And that happened here in the United States. And then the story about Jesus, about how Jesus was, how wonderful Jesus was, and how he lived a fantastic life, and he's the greatest example of any human being that ever lived on earth, even though people might choose another as their idol, Batman, Superman, stuff like that. But you're told that it is Jesus that is it. And wise is the man or woman, boy or girl, that chooses Jesus as one to emulate, imitate. So I say, all of these things that are before us, and when you sit down and you think about what's happening in America today, what's happening to you, my brothers and sisters, what's happening to you, many of you, or should I say none of you, really see any hope. You are thinking that something might happen, something that might happen to help you a little bit, but you know darn well, and nor do you care if it helps anyone else. That's where we are today. And if you sit back and look at it, you should ask yourself this. Let's talk about Jesus. You know all the wonderful things they tell you about Jesus? You know the picture that they put before you so you can have some idea who Jesus looked like down here on the earth that you better respect because he got some relationship with Jesus. You know that? But then you sit back and you look at the world, or just look at America, and all that you see represents Jesus as well. See, this is where the message comes out that regardless, if the world is ugly, if America is ugly, and you might not want to be associated with that ugliness, but what and where is your evidence? What and where is your evidence that you don't want to be associated with this ugliness? If you don't have any evidence, then there's no difference between you and those who are causing it to the one who is suffering at the hands thereof. So when things like this is happening in America, you could talk about your God, your Jesus, and what Jesus meant. But when this kind of stuff happens, Jesus is dead. Jesus has no power. No power. Why? Because Jesus is not this. You heard a message that said Jesus came to this to wake this up, but they probably called it woke. Well, no, I just threw that in there. They say he came here. But did or didn't, we're living in hell. Now, let's think about this. The story kind of gives us the impression that this Jesus was hijacked. They saying this Jesus is a representation of the same lie that came before the Indians. They call them Indians now. When they were being robbed of their land, when they were being brutalized, pushed into the wilderness. This Jesus is represented with that. Now, you're not going to come to the slaves. When slaves were going all through what they had to go through, and what they went through, and what they're still going through today, that Jesus on the cross is associated with that. What is going on in this country today? And this is just a repeat here. This Jesus on the cross that you're going to be talking about Sunday and every Sunday and having your studies in Bible school is associated with all of this. And I'm sure you really got it justified. No doubt, because you sure does not have an answer to what it's all about. Now, let's talk about another Jesus. Since we talked about the one we've always seen on the pictures, the white Jesus, let's talk about a black Jesus. Now, I know you don't know anything about a black Jesus. You have no knowledge whatsoever of a black Jesus. And very few black Americans got any information. And I said information, and I'm not talking about knowledge about a black Jesus. But for those of you who know nothing, or so little, it might as well be nothing, let me give you an image of the black Jesus. So now we know what the white Jesus is like, but let me tell you about the black Jesus. The black Jesus message to the world, not just to black people, but to the world, is that there is a power that's much more powerful than all of the human beings put together. In fact, is responsible for the human beings being here. And not only that, is responsible for the earth that the human beings are here on. And responsible for the resources that exist on the earth so that the human beings can utilize those resources while they are on this God's earth, living in this God's body, given the opportunity to live here on this earth as in heaven. Basically meaning to live in peace and be prosperous and free and joyous and happy, and to live your dreams, to have your needs, your wants, and your desires met at your choosing, my friends. Suffering for nothing. Food, clothing, shelter, education, healthcare, transportation, infrastructure, or anything that's made by the hands of man. And it's a joyous thing because each of you who benefit from being on this earth, and that's everyone, engage in the process of making this earth wonderful for all that are here. So that means basically you got a career, a job. Yes, that you have chosen. That you have chosen. Not nobody gave it to you. Nobody said you'd be good. No, you chose it. And why did you choose it? You chose it because it gives you the greatest joy you can imagine. It gives you, that career gives you the greatest joy that you can imagine. And having received and receiving continuously this joy daily as you engage in whatever that career is, it is connected with the other careers. And what is it doing? It is creating your heaven right here. That reservoir of goods and services will never be depleted. And what are you doing? You're living for yourselves, you're living for one another, and you're expressing the knowledge of God. It's not just some words or some information now. It's the knowledge of God. Because you have chosen to allow that God to live in you. And you have caused the manifestation of that God, which is spirit, to be alive in the physical. And you reap the benefits. You reap the benefits. Now that's what you would get from a black Jesus. A black Jesus does not use any money. Why? Because what is for? Money is used to con. Money is used to rip people off. Money is from the pit of hell. Oh, you don't know that. And everything you basically been taught about money is that it's good. Somebody say the root of all evil, but you don't buy that. Everybody trying to get money because they don't know where life lies. But it is my duty and my responsibility to sit here and give you information that a black Jesus, if anybody was teaching you about a black Jesus, this information you would know, but it wouldn't just be something that you would know. It's something that you would do. you would do. And you know what? People who accept what this Jesus is telling you, accepting God, accepting one another, and showing the respect to one another, evidence of your honoring God. And the heavenliness is the reward of the human race. Now, I just thought I'd share that with you because every day I look and I see these guys on television. I see Donald Trump bringing in all these crooks. All these crooks, he's probably got something on. And they'll come in and jump through every hoop. Make him God. Not even a black Jesus, but make Donald Trump God. He decides. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, use your imagination when it comes down to Donald Trump. I don't think there's any ugliness that you can think of that Donald Trump wouldn't try if he wanted to. So, this is what you have created. No one's really satisfied. Even those who pretend it's just pretending. But you can be satisfied. And when I come to you, I'm trying to get you to move this way. I'm really trying to convert you. I want to see you move this way. You've gone through storms. You've gone through hell. Life has been good and life has been terrible. But there's nothing compared to what life is going to be like if we can't wake up. Nature is not going to sit back and allow this to happen. No, my friends, I don't care what you got. You can lose it. You can lose it. And if we don't straighten up, we are going to lose it. Then all that you've been told about will still be available to you. It is today, and it'll be there when you got nothing but it. But usually that's the time when you're willing to turn to it and say, let's be brothers. Let's look after one another. Let's protect one another. Now think about, what if you could say that today? Rather than when your home and your town and your city and your state and your country is being destroyed. Wouldn't it be beautiful? But the devil won't let you see that. Evil won't let you come close to that. Evil won't allow you to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Ain't that right? Till next time, Eddie Marcus saying goodbye.